President Trump's White House counsel Pat Cipollone testified to the January 6th committee on Friday. We're joined now by committee member Congressman Adam Kinzinger. Congressman Kinzinger, thanks for coming back to This Week this morning. We just heard Congresswoman Lofgren right there talk about Pat Cipollone's testimony. Anything more you can say about that? It's been reported that the committee didn't ask Mr. Cipollone to corroborate the specifics of Cassidy Hutchinson's testimony. What's the reasoning behind that?
Well, look, it was an 8-hour interview. We went through a lot of stuff, and as Zoe said, he did not contradict anybody. Look, first off, we're not going to bring somebody in and just sit around and ask them about what other people said too. We're getting their information, their front, their position, and I think it's very clear. You'll see over the next couple hearings a little of what he said. Certainly you'll see a lot of that in the report. But at no point was there any contradiction of what anybody said. But the rest I'll have to leave to the presentation for the committee.
Trump advisor Steve Bannon has been indicted for refusing to testify before the committee. But the Washington Post reported this week that Trump is now considering waiving any claims of executive privilege applied to Bannon. Does the committee still want to hear from him?
Look, I'll just say overall, because Steve Bannon is involved in the law. He's fighting with the Justice Department. I will just say on a high-level position, anybody that wants to come in that knows information to talk to the Select Committee, we welcome them to do so. We welcome them to do so under oath. And we all know the history with our request to have talked to Steve Bannon. So we'll see how that comes out. But the bottom line is, yes, we as a committee want to talk to anybody that has information.
Does that hold for the founder of the Oath Keepers as well, Stuart Rhodes, who offered to waive his Fifth Amendment rights to testify at a live public hearing? He's in jail now. Is that a viable proposal?
Yeah, I mean, look, again, any one of these things we'll take a look at as long as it's under oath. We've talked to a lot of people, as you know, already by transcribed interview. And so I think what you're seeing for sure by comments like that and anybody else is they went from initially saying that this committee was nothing but, a sideshow, something that nobody was interested in, to all of a sudden, oh, yeah, I want to testify publicly in front of it. We saw that the former President Trump, is very angry that Kevin McCarthy did exactly what Trump wanted him to do, which is pull off his Republican members of Congress. And so, because now he has 2 Republican members that aren't going to sit there and spew out the big lie. So this is an amazing thing for the American people to hear the truth. Most importantly, we just want the truth to come out so that something like this never happens again in this country.
It doesn't appear to be breaking through Republicans. There's a lot of recent polling showing that the number of Republicans over the last year who view this as a legitimate protest on January 6th and not an insurrection has actually dramatically risen. How do you explain that?
Well, look, I think on the margins, yes, it is puncturing through. And I think what's most important is, again, what does history say in 5 or 10 years? Because I can guarantee, well, I can get about as close as I can to guaranteeing that in about 10 years, there's not going to have been a single Trump supporter that exists anywhere in the country. It's like Nixon. There were a lot of people that supported Nixon until he was out of office, and then everybody was like, oh, nobody supported Nixon. I figure that that's going to happen. But the other thing is this. We live in a media environment where you get your media from whoever kind of reinforces whatever you already believe, and there is a profit motive on some of these media outlets to not say anything contradictory to what Donald Trump is saying. He's in essence a cult leader right now. He's a man that can stand up and say anything he wants, and these news organizations just reinforce it. So, look, if you have leaders of Congress like Kevin McCarthy, like frankly most members of the Republican Party in Congress, that just simply refuse to tell the truth to their constituents, first off, they're lying and abusing their constituents, but secondly, you can't really expect there to be much of a different outcome.
Kevin McCarthy's allies are promising to review the work of the committee if Republicans take control of Congress next year. Of course, you're not going to be in Congress, you're retiring, but does that concern you?
No, not at all. In fact, well, I welcome them to see the work that we've done because, again, as was originally stated, we were supposed to have this in a commission where it was even, 50% Republican, 50% Democrat. Kevin McCarthy, after supporting it, opposed it. And then this committee was created. Kevin put his people on there. I think the speaker rightly said, here's 2 that participated in the insurrection. You can't have that. So they were pulled. Kevin could have put 2 different members on. Instead, he pulled them off, thinking he would sink the legitimacy of the committee. And it has done the direct opposite. This has been a bipartisan committee. And I'm very proud of the work we've done. So, yeah, I welcome any scrutiny.
You'll be leading Thursday's primetime hearing with Congresswoman Elaine Luria. What is the focus, and will we be learning new information?
Well, obviously, we'll save the new information for that hearing. But look, I think that we're going to really focus on what was the president doing from, in essence, the moment the insurrection started until he finally, hours later, put out the tweet that said we shouldn't do anything like this. Keep in mind, in the middle of that was the tweet that said, in essence, this is what happens when you steal an election, that Vice President Pence deserved this. So what we want to show the American people is what was the president doing during that time. The rest of the country knew that there was an insurrection. The president obviously had to have known there was an insurrection. So where was he? What was he doing? It's a very important hearing. Pay attention, because I think it goes to the heart of what is the oath of a leader. You have an oath to defend the Constitution of the United States. You can't selectively pick what parts of the Constitution you defend or what branches of government, and you certainly can't be gleeful during it.
Finally, the New York Times reported this week that both the former FBI Director James Comey and his deputy Andrew McCabe received these supposedly random audits that go to, one in several 100,000 people. Of course, they were both officials who were targeted publicly by President Trump. What are the chances, in your view, that those audits are an innocent coincidence?
I mean, look, if you just take those math numbers, it seems very unlikely. I don't know, of course, the details of their finances and what could possibly trigger it, but nobody ever, for their political views, for anything, should be targeted or discriminated against by the IRS. And I certainly think it's right for the investigator to look into this in the IRS. And if there was targeting, there should be serious, not just penalties for the person that did it, but, fixes for the system so nothing like this happens again. That's like third world stuff. That's not something we should do here in the United States.
Congressman, thanks as always for your time.
You bet.
Roundtable's coming up. Plus, Nate Silver's take on how the Supreme Court's abortion ruling will impact the midterm elections. Stay with us.